Hey, it's Ari from Degy, and like always, we're taking you backstage in our new segment here. And I said this season we want to introduce you to some of our roster artists, the acts that make up the side of Degy where we're out there booking their calendars. And so at this big national kind of convention type thing that we're doing here, I figured we'd spend some time with my friend Asia, one of the best poets and spoken word artists that I've ever been around, and we figured we'd just kind of shoot the crap for a little bit. And you secretly to me, before this whole thing starts, say, by the way, I got some news for you. Ask me what it is on camera.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, well, what news do you have for me?
Well, you'll be proud. It's not even public yet, but I got nominated to be Poet Laureate of my city.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that's a big deal.
Pensacola?
Huh?
Or wherever
Pensacola,
you live?
yeah. Well, they consider it the Emerald Coast, so I would, if I win, I would be the Poet Laureate of Emerald Coast. So that's a good thing to put on the resume.
All right.
I guess after all these years. So yeah.
Well, let's talk about. Do you know, if you're in the poetry side of things, do you call it poetry? Do you call it spoken word? Is there a preferred word that's used by folks?
Yeah, so that's a good question actually, because poetry.
You seem surprised that I have good questions.
Yeah, no, I actually am. Yeah. Ari knows a little bit about poetry. Hey guys, I was the very first poet in the Degy roster, so I feel like I have to be the one to teach him about poetry.
That is true.
Poetry is poetry, right? It's poetry, but when you perform it, I think that's what we call spoken word. Then that's when it becomes spoken word. Now, if you compete with it, that's what we call slam. So sometimes if schools bring us, sometimes it's weird when schools promote us and they say, we have slam poetry going on at 8 o'clock tonight in the lounge. Well, it's not really slam poetry. It's because there's not a competition happening.
Got it.
It would be a spoken word event. So just for all of you who are booking that lets you know that's how you market it as a spoken word event. If you're going to do a competition, which I can also host, so if people bring me to that, I can host their slam, then it's a slam competition.
Do you think that the general genre around the spoken word has been in any way trivialized as being on the same performance level as, let's say, music or comedy, where we have grown artists in those various areas to become superstars, right? Selling out arenas. And I think, poetry, maybe the most famous would be somebody who's performed, at a White House event, or somebody who becomes viral. And yet you don't see poets or spoken word artists that are selling out arenas, unless I'm mistaken.
Right.
Is there something about that? What gets this kind of area to the next level of recognition?
That's the same question that we as poets ask ourselves all the time, because the thing with poetry is that there's so many lanes it could be in that it becomes a jack of all trades and really not a master of none, right? So you have someone who's gone viral and is doing amazing things because they went viral online. But then you have somebody who, does the presidential inauguration, right? But then on the other hand, there's another poet who is doing music videos with Kanye, right? So people don't know exactly how to package spoken word, whereas when you're doing a comic, you're going to get a comic. Well, if it's a concert, it's a concert. There's music is music, and stand-up comedy, magicians are magicians, and so it's easy to have those, So, like Vegas, you're going to get magicians doing, these huge places, but you might not see a stadium for a magician, but you see it with comics all the time, and you see it obviously with music.
Sure.
How poetry could get there, I don't know, and a lot of it too is attributed to the fact that poetry really digs deep and talks about real, honest to God stuff. And sometimes people don't want to hear that for entertainment.
So
it's not.
It's a good transition to talking about you. I have found that some of your most poignant poems have come out of personal tragedy and situations that you have, whether it be your sister's, early death or cancer for yourself, which you've beaten and such. Is that what best fuels you as a poet to write? Or
sometimes
do you get stuck when you don't have that kind of gravitational pull from some sort of, important moment?
Well, when we teach students, I tell them all the time, don't look for trauma to write about. You know what I mean? Like, because a lot of students too, or people who want to learn poetry, they're like, well, something badass happened to me, so I write poems. No, I have some awesome poems, like some poems that are not rooted in trauma or bad things that happen, but those are the ones that mean the most to me because it brings me back. I should say also that when I go through something really bad, I don't write about it immediately. I can't. I'm not in that space. Usually it takes about a year of me stepping away and looking back, and it's my way of turning something bad into something beautiful for me. Like if I can at least immortalize that experience in a poem that can also help move others, then I think it was worth it to use that. I don't want to, what's the word, like pimp the trauma, right? It's just us writing about what we feel. But I also have poems too that are fun. Like the 90s poem, or today I did my Millennium Love poem, and the crowd was getting a kick out of it. They were enjoying it a bunch. And so you have to have that balance, right? I'm not going to go to someone's campus and bum them out for an hour. Like, we're going to have some fun. I'll make you laugh. We're going to do this, we'll do that. And at the same time, think and cry. And so I try to treat it to that, so that I could one day have like a stadium kind of crowd and people are intrigued and not crying for an hour.
Got it. Yeah, it's like the ebbs and flows of a concert.
Yeah.
Where you take them down and bring them back up and so forth.
That's what I want to do.
Same way.
Yeah.
Well, he's one of the best that I've ever been around, not just as a poet, but as a human. I love him to death, and lucky to represent him for many years. We have a good time with each other over those years, and I'm glad to sit down with you, and I'm glad to continue to represent you. Asia, one of the most amazing poets around, Asia Sampson. I'll connect it. This is taking you backstage, and we'll see you on the next episode.